Brought to you by Penguin.
The Facemaker, one surgeon's battle to mend the disfigured soldiers of World War I, by Lindsey Fitzharris. Read by Harold Gillies.
He would show himself to the little guys, and to their mothers and fathers, and brothers and sisters, and wives and sweethearts, and grandmothers and grandfathers. And he'd have a sign over himself, and the sign would say, "Here is war," and he would concentrate the whole war into such a small piece of meat and bone and hair that they would never forget it as long as they lived. Dalton Trumbo. Johnny Got His Gun. Only the dead have seen the end of war. George Santayana, 1922. A note to the listener. A significant challenge for any non-fiction writer is not to overwhelm the reader with too many details, something that is easily done when charting the immense scale of events that took place between 1914 and 1918. The Facemaker is by no means a definitive history of plastic surgery during the First World War. Nor is it a comprehensive biography of Harold Gillies, the surgeon who dedicated himself to rebuilding the faces of soldiers maimed during that time. For that, there are many articles and books written by scholars who have devoted their entire careers to these subjects, as my endnotes will attest. Rather, what follows is an intimate account of the daily struggles Gillies and his team faced at the Queen's Hospital, as well as the men who suffered the double trauma of injury on the battlefield and the painful process of recovery. In their own time, disfigured soldiers were often hidden from public view. The decision to include their photographs in the PDF that accompanies this audiobook was not made lightly. I consulted various experts, including a disability activist with a facial disfigurement. The photos are undoubtedly graphic, and many people will find them difficult to view. But it is impossible to grasp the severity of these men's injuries and the reactions they elicited without seeing their faces. Equally, it is hard to appreciate fully the skill with which Harold Gillies and his team reconstructed soldiers' faces without seeing the surgical progress chronicled in these photographs. However, there is an exception. I have not included pre- or post-operative images of injured men who died in Gillies' care, as the reconstruction was never completed. It bears stressing that this is a work of non-fiction. Anything that has been attributed to a historical document, be it a letter, diary, newspaper article, or surgical casebook, any descriptive references to gestures, facial expressions, emotions, and the like, are based on first-hand accounts. It is my hope that through the telling of this tale, readers and listeners will gain a new perspective on the terrible consequences of trench warfare and the private battles that many men fought long after they put down their rifles. Prologue. An Unlovely Object. November 20, 1917. Brilliant shards of crimson and gold pierced the eastern sky as dawn broke over Cambrai. The French city was a vital supply point for the German army positioned 25 miles from the Belgian border. On the dewy grass of a nearby hillside, Private Percy Clare of the 7th Battalion, East Surrey Regiment, was lying on his belly next to his commanding officer, awaiting the signal to advance. 30 minutes earlier, he had watched as hundreds of tanks rumbled over the soggy terrain toward the wire entanglement surrounding the German defense line. Under the cover of darkness, British troops had gained ground, but what had the appearance of a victory soon deteriorated into a hellish massacre for both sides. As Clare prepared himself for this dawn attack, he could already see the motionless, broken bodies of other soldiers scattered across the blasted landscape. "I rather wondered if I should even see another sunrise over the trenches," he later recorded in tightly lettered script in his diary. The 36-year-old soldier was no stranger to death. A year earlier, he had been holed up in the trenches of the Somme, where tedious stretches of inactivity were punctuated by frenzied bouts of terror. Every few days, wagons arrived to exchange rations for corpses, but the sheer number of bodies made it impossible to keep up. They lay in trenches where they'd
Sample complete. Ready to continue?